Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and today I am back with my autumn TBR of sorts because autumn is here. I'm very excited. My hotel is actually quite autumnal with all of these colours going on, and me green. Some people would say this is spring green. I definitely say it's an autumnal green because you still get those bright days, but they're not like woo popping. Anyway, moving on from the look of the hotel. I don't think I've made that many hotel videos while I've been travelling here, there and everywhere. But suffice to say, autumn is here. I'm very, very excited. And I have got 12 books that I want to talk to you about that I am going to head to over the autumn months. Now, these books were all bought in I was going to say a moment of madness, but it wasn't. It was just an absolute time of delight going around various bookshops in Bath and just going wild and picking up some absolute treats. You will see in a vlog that will be coming in the next couple of weeks. I'm not promising specific days because I'm learning my lessons. That when I was in Bristol, Swindon and Bath twice, I had a zero TBR, so I didn't pack any books for that leg of the tour for work I'm on, and just went with a zero TBR. And I talk about how that is and what I pick by whim, and it really did give me a bit of insight into the reader I am now and if I could or couldn't cope with zero TBR. But I won't tell you my final thoughts on that because you've got to watch that vlog. But it did make me think about where my tastes are, authors I want to return to, new authors that I've discovered. And so I have come up with this selection of 15 books, and we're going to go through short stories, non-fiction, and then novels. And the final novel in this video is going to be super duper important because it's going to be the first choice for a book club that I'm going to be starting on Patreon, which I always link down below. Anyway, more on that in a bit. So, first up, short story wise, I have Small Circle of Beings by Damon Galgut. Now, I read The Promise earlier this year. I read The Quarry last month, and I loved them both. And I think I found a new favourite author. I'm also interviewing Damon in Liverpool on the 11th of October. And I'm really, really, really excited for it. I don't know if there's a link to it yet. If there is, I'll leave that down below if you want to come, if you happen to be in the area. But yeah, I have absolutely fallen in love with his writing, and I thought his short story collection would be a corker. I keep saying I want to read more short story collections, and I keep not reading them. But also, I just found this orange a very autumnal tone, and so right, I thought I'm going to get that one. Then I have become slightly obsessed with the translator Anton Her via Instagram, and he has translated, I think, the first story in this, or certainly like one of the big stories within this collection, and I thought, right, I'm going to get it. This is The Age of Doubt by Pak Kyung-ni, and I just thought it sounded really interesting because it collects some of Pak Kyung-ni's most famous works, including her 1955 debut and other stories featuring characters that would appear in Toji, her 20-volume epic. And I just thought, well, one, I fell in love with the cover. I hadn't heard of the publisher before, Honford Star, so that got me very excited. Anton had mentioned it on his Instagram, so I was like, right, I'm intrigued, and I really want to make sure that, like I said, I read more short stories, but also I had a really great time reading Women in Translation in August and would like to take that through into the autumn and beyond. So yeah, really, really, really excited for this. And it's got lots of different translators, not just Anton Her. There's Sophie Bowman, Yoo Jong Kim, Emily Ye Won, like there's quite a few. So yeah, very, very, very excited for this. Now, on to some non-fiction, and I've wanted to read Jan Morris for ages, and I was mooching around Toppings in Bath, which might have become my new favourite bookshop. Not that I should have favourites, however, you can mooch, sit down, peruse like through your selection, and they bring you a pot of tea for free so that you can just really, really relax and take your time with it. And I picked this up and I was mooching and perusing, and I read the first line, which, well, first, the first bit's called One, Except Perhaps a Cat, which I loved. And then I thought this was brilliant. People often say childhood is the age of innocence. Don't you believe it? There is nobody more cunning, more calculating, often more deceptive than a human infant, except perhaps a cat, whose most companionable purr can mask a curse. And I was like, we're going to get on brilliantly. So this is various essays, I think, from Jan's life. Jan sadly passed away a few years ago, and I've always meant to read their work, and so yeah, now I'm going to. So I'm really, really excited for this, and again, really nice like autumnal colours on the cover. Then I was recommended this by somebody in Toppings, and this is The Sex Lives of African Women by Nana Dokoya Sekiyimaya. And this I was also told to read in chunks. So this is essays from all sorts of African women of all walks of life, different sexualities, and just telling us about this. And I was thinking of Three Women, which I thought was brilliant, by Lisa Taddeo, and this is obviously a lot more women than Three Women, which I think is going to mean it's got even more like layers to it and more discussion topics and just be even more fascinating. But yeah, I thought this would be an absolute corker, and so I picked it up as a non-fiction read, because I haven't read enough non-fiction this year, and it does sadden me quite a lot that I haven't. So we've got that one. We've also got Black and Female by Tsitsi Dangaremga, who I was lucky enough to see talk about this collection of, I think they're 3 long essays, when I was in Bath and she was at Toppings. And there were 2 events that I ended up going to in Toppings that have, made me want to read the author's work even more. And I have to say, at both instances, it was so interesting going to an event where I've not read the book, and the hosts were both brilliant at not giving too much away, but just making sure you wanted to go and read it. And I really hope that's what I do when I host events. I came away thinking, gosh, I hope I'm that good at this. Anyway, yeah, and it was fascinating to hear Titsy talk about this. The 3 different essays are called Writing While Black and Female, Black Female and the Superwoman, Black Feminist, and Decolonization as Revolutionary Imagining. And yeah, I just think it's going to be really powerful. And then I would really like to go on to read her 3, the trilogy of novels that she wrote, and I'm wondering if that would be a good reading vlog to read all 3 of those, and then maybe this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, the next 3 books, and we're on to fiction now, because I have to say there's not masses taking my fancy non-fiction wise, and I need to rectify that because I want to read obviously a lot more non-fiction in non-fiction November. So if you've got any recommendations of narrative non-fiction books that are a little bit different, not your obvious ones or ones that have been necessarily big sellers or have been around a lot on BookTube and YouTube, please let me know in the comments down below, because that would be really appreciative. Now, one of the things that I found when I was doing my video about picking what sort of reader I was that when I was in Bath, it was Toppings and Mr. B's that I headed to over Persephone, and I love Persephone books. And actually when I went in, I saw Francesca Bowman, who is Nicola's daughter, who Nicola set up Persephone, and she was saying, oh, you used to write so many lovely reviews about it. And I was like, yeah, and I tried to read them in chronological order, and I used to really, really love them. And so I thought, right, I need to get back into them. And I did then that awful thing of thinking, which ones do I own and which ones don't I own? I can't remember. So I picked ones that were the newer ones on their list, but also one that I think I have, but not in this edition, because Persephone sometimes don't just do the Dove Grey covers, they also do ones with images on. Anyway, the first one I had to get was A Well Full of Leaves by Elizabeth Myers. This is apparently about a family in the north of England, and Francesca said it's kind of, I don't think she used the term batshit crazy, I think I've thrown that in there, but it was along those lines of like, it's not what you expect from a Persephone book. But also she said, you know, like when you read loads and loads of books, it's the different ones that really stand out. And she said this was one of those for her. And I love the fact that the line in here said, our mother liked it, well, it's basically where they live, on this street. And it says, our mother liked it only because in such a place would she have been looked upon as a superior type, as was the case. A stuck-up sour bitch, the neighbours called her. That's brilliant. Also, look at the end papers and the bookmark. Gorgeous. So I got that one on Francesca's recommendation. She said she wants to know whether I love it, hate it, because it is very, very different. So I'm intrigued for that one. Then I got this edition of Miss Bunkle's book, which I've meant to read for ages, but I fell in love with that gorgeous cover. So these are they're Persephone classics, and they'll often do them with instead of the Dove Grey cover, and instead of like the, they've still got lovely inside the flaps, it's gorgeous, but they've got the picture cover. And I don't know very much about this other than just loads and loads of people really, really cherish this book, which is why I had the original edition, but I couldn't leave without this one. There was just something about that image that really stuck with me. I just really, really, really love it, and it felt very autumnal again. So I got that one. And then I don't think you can get much more autumnal, and dare I even say wintry, than Wilkie Collins. And I was quite surprised that Persephone had a Wilkie Collins book, because they generally publish books by women who have, or forgotten classics by women. But this is a Wilkie book, and it's got gorgeous, oh, don't drop it. It's also got gorgeous inside, as you can see, just absolutely stunning. And I hadn't heard of this one. It's the New Magdalene. I love Wilkie Collins. I was having a conversation with Sean Hewitt on Twitter about this the other day, because he was reading Armadale and Lydia Gwilt I'm obsessed by, and I thought, oh, sensation fiction is so, like Victorian sensation fiction, which this is part of, I believe, the ones where it's like, you know, murder, bigamy, locking people up for being insane, and asylums and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyway, I love that sort of work, and have not read any for ages, so I thought, right, perfect, I shall get a Wilkie. So I did. Then we're on to the final four, and we're always heading to that final special paperback. But before we do, here's some hardback or larger books. I don't know why I've particularly done these in size order and different. Anyway, moving on. I picked myself up a signed first edition of Mohsin Hamid's The Last White Man. I really loved Exit West. I quite liked The Reluctant Fundamentalist, but I didn't love it, but I thought Exit West was brilliant, and I've heard this is really, really good, and lots of people want it to be on the Booker long list. I will be reading the Booker shortlist over the autumn, so that's one other thing to think about. But yeah, when I saw it was signed, I had to get myself that in toppings. Any books that I haven't mentioned I got in toppings, I got in Mr. B's, because these were all books bought in Bath, so there we go. One book that I hunted high and low for, because Niven Govindan had said it was really, really good when I'd scanned it in like a Instagram story in Bristol, was Tokyo Express by Shicho Matsumoto. And this is a literary, whacked it, which I'm quite upset about, but let's move swiftly on, not even look at it. Let's put it in the shadow so that we can't see that dent that I've caused upon this book. But yeah, this is a literary crime novel, and I'm really in the mood for more crime, but I don't think I want sort of, I don't know, thriller. I feel like I want something with sort of layers and a bit of nuance. Not that I'm saying that all thrillers don't have nuance, because actually a lot of crime fiction can look at issues in society in a really different way, which is why I love them. But yeah, I want to read more Susan Hill's and the Simon Sereda series. I'd quite like to catch up with that by the end of autumn, but you know, that's not part of this TBR, so I don't know why I'm going off on a tangent. I suppose it's because it's just brought it up. But yeah, so if you've got any recommendations of crime that's a little bit different, quite maybe a bit more literary, that's really going to get me hooked. Lots of you recommended Nikki French, and I have got most of those books. I know Jen really loved them, and I know Lauren really loved them. So I would like to read those, but I also kind of want something that's a little bit unexpected crime, not your usual crime fare, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? I hope you know what I mean, but let me know that in the comments down below too. And then penultimately, we have Lap Vona. And again, while I was in Bath, Tessa Moshrig happened to be there, and so I went and saw her in conversation for an event for Mr. B's and got this one signed. She's even popped a smiley face in, because she remembered me from when I interviewed her in Liverpool when I hosted all the Booker shortlist authors that year. A lot of mention of Booker in this one. Anyway, a lot of people thought this would be on the book too. I haven't read this yet. I heard her talk about it, and I'm so desperate to read it. It's untrue. This may well be. It's either this or this, I think, for my first book for autumn. I did actually pick up the Persephone one here, but I wasn't quite in the mood for it. I wanted something a little bit more gripping, because there's no point going into a book when you know it's not quite the right mood for you right now, is there? Anyway, these two could easily be the first books that I read in September and in autumn. So yeah, I'm really, really excited for this. I just loved the way she wrote about it, and she said a few things that I thought were brilliant. Like one, when people said, oh, people were quite shocked how different this book was, and she was like, you boys, like, if you do the same thing over and over, you bore yourself, let alone anyone else. And then she was also asked the question about how does she feel as a woman writing quite gritty, dark material that she knows people are going to be really critical over. Like, how does she fight that? And she just said, you've got to constantly remember how close you are to death every minute of the day, and then fuck anxiety, and also fuck the people who basically they're going to criticize you whatever you do, so forget them. They're not even important, and don't even be thinking about that when you haven't even worked out what you're creating. But it was mainly the kind of thing about just remember how time is so precious. Basically, we are quite close to death at any moment, and you've just got to live in the moment and go for it. And I was like, I needed to hear that. And then last but not least is, as I mentioned, teased, whatever you want to describe it as at the beginning, I am starting a book club over on Patreon, and the first book is going to be Vera by Elizabeth von Arnhem, which I believe has shades of Rebecca. I'm in love with that cover. I'm very excited for this. It will be the book club the second day or the second of every month. I think I'm going to call it the Savage Second of the Month Book Club. And yeah, so if you would like to join in with that, we'll be talking about this on the 2nd of October. Sorry, my phone is full to the brim with data, so I just had to delete some. But what I was saying, we will talk about this on the 2nd of October. If you are a patron by the 1st of September, then on the 2nd in the morning, you will get a link to have a live Zoom chat. There'll be a limit on how many people we have, because I don't want it to be too ridiculous. I want it to be quite intimate and lovely. But yeah, it'll be really, really good fun. And then we can have a natter after we've nattered about the book and a catch up and stuff. And then I will be getting people to vote on the titles after that. So there'll be 4 options and you guys get to vote, or maybe it'll be that I put all of suggestions from everyone in the book club into a pot and pick one out. Whichever works, we'll see. But that I'm very, very excited for. I don't know too much about it other than the shades of Rebecca. So yeah, so there we go. Anyway, my phone is full of data, which is quite concerning considering I've got 1 terabyte on it, or whatever you call it. I don't really understand tech, which is odd because I'm working in it. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments down below what books you're going to be heading to over the autumn. Hooray, it's autumn. I'm so excited. I feel so much more myself in autumn. It's really, really lovely. So yeah, I will speak to you all very, very soon. Bye.